Welcome to Facing the Canon. My guest on the programme is my friend Sir Peter Vardy, business entrepreneur and now committed to social action projects. Peter, welcome to Facing the Canon.
Good morning, how are you?
It's great to see you. Good to have you on the programme. I was reminiscing this morning with Killy. I think we've known you and Margaret for several decades.
Yes.
I can't quite remember where we first bumped into each other, but we've been friends for many, many years. We want to tell your story, Peter. Now, you left school with 1 O-level in music. How did you manage that?
Well, I got music lessons from the organist at the local church and sang in the choir, and my father was keen for me to sing. So he took me to Durham Cathedral and went to the music, the trials, voice trials and everything. And I got a place in the chorister school in the choir. So from 7 years old, I was living away from home.
Oh,
I was at boarding schools, but it was a great time.
great time.
Really.
But you came out with 1 O-level. So did you not concentrate on your other subjects?
Well, I went in with a very poor record, and it was a miracle that I got there in the first place, because I've had literacy problems all my life. And at school, they just said I was thick. Nowadays, it might be that I had dyslexia.
Yes.
I just got off to a very bad start.
I know.
And to be honest with you, I've never caught up. It's affected. No, seriously, it has affected me all my life. Reading and memory and all that sort of thing. And that's why it was amazing that I got involved with education.
Now, your parents, Christians, you're brought up in a Christian home. When did it become personal for you?
Really, when I left school. I was singing in the cathedral morning and night. But when I left school and came home, I realized that faith was a personal decision, whilst my father and mother were very keen Christians, first generation Christians, and really on fire. It was something that I needed to make a decision for myself. I might one day inherit my father's business, but I would never inherit his faith. And that was the personal decision I made.
Amazing. Yeah, as you said, Peter, you left school at 16. You joined your father's business. What was that business?
It was a Ford. Well, he had two businesses. He had a haulage business, which because he started with a hand cart and a horse and cart and ended up with lorries. And my older brother, David, he moved into that side of the business when he left school. And I joined my dad in a Ford dealership he had in Houghton-le-Spring, a mining town in the northeast of England between Durham and Sunderland.
And you started initially like serving petrol and sweeping the floors until you passed your driving license and started selling cars.
That's it. It was amazing experience, really, because I worked in every department. So I was a mechanic, a paint sprayer, panel beater, served the petrol, cleaned the floor. There was only 6 of us in the whole dealership. We had to do all the jobs. But it was a very good grounding for me. But it was really when I was 17 and got my driving license that I really found what I loved doing, and that was selling. And my relationship with the customers was all important, to meet the needs of the motoring public and sell them what they wanted and what they needed. And that proved to be very stimulating for me and very profitable for the company.
And then your father passed away and you inherited that business. And then over the years, you grew the business. Tell us about those years of growth.
Well, we had the one dealership in Houghton Spring, and we were very successful at selling a lot of cars. So the idea of growing and building more was an attraction to me, and so we ended up by 1989 we had 17 dealerships. By 2005 we had 100 dealerships. So I really loved selling, and I loved marketing cars and encouraging guys to come and work with me. And we ended up selling 200,000 cars a year. So we found the formula to make cars affordable. Now that was Aston Martins and Rolls Royces, as well. It was Mini Metros and Ford Escorts. So it's it was an amazingly happy and successful time where I was in my element selling and marketing.
And how many staff did you employ at the height of your business?
6,000.
And they all knew that you were a Christian, uh, about your Christian values and principles, and you endeavored to run your company with Christian values.
Yes, obviously we're living out my faith. When it was just six of us, it was quite easy because I saw them every day and all day. When it was 6,000 and there were 100 dealerships from Aberdeen to the south of England, it was more difficult. But we established values that were Christian values, and everyone carried the values card in their pocket. So we knew what the values were. And it was just a great time. And everyone enjoyed it because we were successful, because we were selling a lot of cars. I mean, I did the induction of the staff all the time. And I was telling the salesman that you're only selling them because I can't get to every customer myself. But please only say what I would say. So no lies, no stories, no anything. Just tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And we will build a values based company, which is what we did.
Amazing. I remember hearing you say, Peter, that you believe the best wisdom for leadership can be found in the Bible.
Well, it is. It's all there.
It
You
is,
know,
isn't it?
you don't need to read much else, uh, because everything is there to learn from.
But until I heard you say that, I remember hearing you say it, and then I kind of thought to myself, why have I never heard anyone else say that? Sometimes we devalue the wisdom of the Bible.
Well, there's a friend of ours in the States that we can come across and speak. Actually, he wrote a book, "How to Run Your Business by the Book," and the book's the Bible. So he refers to the Bible all the way through the book, and I mean it is good leadership practice, and it's good common sense, and it's something that everybody understands.
Now, you had the opportunity to sell your company, and obviously you seized that opportunity. So once you sold the company, it was, I suppose, what's next, Lord? And what did you sense?
Well, I didn't seize the opportunity to sell the company. I didn't have an alternative, to be honest with you. We floated the company, so we're on the stock market, and we floated the company at a price of 90 pence a share, and the offer came for £9 a share, and I had to say to the shareholders, "This is a good deal or a bad deal," and I had to say, "Look, this is an amazing deal. I can't guarantee you a better deal than this if I don't accept the offer." So it was right at the time. It was a God given opportunity for me and the shareholders and everybody else. And it was a very good run. And it's the biggest deal that's ever been done. So there wasn't any question that, I mean, the bid started at £5, £6, £7, £8, and got up to £9. And I just said, look, that's an amazing offer for the company. So we took the offer and then had to decide what happens next. We'd already developed the foundation. When we floated the company in 1989, we put a lot of the shares in the foundation. And obviously, when the shares were sold at £9, the foundation got quite a healthy check.
Yes.
But throughout the time when I had the business, the foundation was very active. I mean, the first thing we did was build the schools in 1989. So we built 5 schools.
Yeah, tell us a bit more about that, Peter. How did you initially start with the first school? How did that come about?
Well, Margaret Thatcher and Kenneth Baker wanted to establish some schools outside of the local authority control. They just wanted some independent schools to prove what could be done. And they built 14, and a number of business leaders said they would help. So I sponsored the one in Gateshead, and we built a new school. David, my brother, was the project director, and we built the school, and it's been an outstanding success. Still is. It's continually getting outstanding Ofsted reports.
And Peter, the ethos of all your schools, Christian ethos, Christian
Yes.
values and principles,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
they have, like, in terms of academics, they've exceeded,
Oh, yes.
excelled.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, Margaret Thatcher and Kenneth Baker, agreed that it could have a Christian ethos, and that's how we got started. And they were very, very supportive of what we were doing. Obviously, Margaret Thatcher lost the next election, and Tony Blair came in. But Tony Blair sent his Education Select Committee up to Gateshead to have a look at it, to say, what are we going to do with these 14 schools? And the report back was that if we could replace all the schools in England with the Emmanuel College model, we've solved the problem of education in Britain. So it was an amazing, and that's in the books. Everybody's written about that, so that's fact.
Well, that is a huge encouragement to you, Peter, and to your, to your whole Vardy family and your colleagues. What an encouragement!
Well, we said we'd build some more, and under Tony Blair, we built another 4. So he obviously was a neighbour of ours. Tony lived at Setchfield, just down the road, and I used to sell cars to his wife.
Yes.
So they were customers of ours. So no, it was a wonderful time in life to be able to help education. I mean, education's an issue all over, isn't it?
Yes.
But we need to do our very best to set strong foundations for young people.
Yes.
And all the things I've done have been trying to get involved in early intervention. How early can we get involved with something so that we make lives better?
Yes. Well, that's always been your thinking, hasn't it, Peter? How can you prevent something from happening and growing? Now, from schools, where did you then move to? I mean, because I was trying to think, what would I now call you? And I think you're a social reformer in many, many ways, because you look at the needs in community and in society, and you're like, well, how can I go to the root cause and deal with it?
Yes. Well, I mean, the thing I saw in the schools was there are so many children that were there one day and they weren't there the next. I mean, it wasn't hundreds, but it was enough to make me worried. And I said, well, where have they gone? Oh, well, they're fostered children. And the foster care is broken down, so they have to go to another foster carer. And I said, well, how many foster carers have they had? Oh, well, this is about the 5th or 6th. And I said, dear me, we need to do something about that. And so there are 120,000 children in care in the UK at the moment. And they're just going on and on and on in the care system. So I said, well, we need to do something for that. So I went across the States, saw Safe Families for Children, where they raise volunteers to help families that are going through crisis, to save children going into the care system. And we started that a few years ago. We have 7,000 volunteers, and it is very, very successful. Gets a lot of people involved. It's a church-based. That's where we get the volunteers from, and we have a lot of volunteers that are just wanting to help kids and help families, and it's a great work.
That's remarkable. And so tell us a story or two about the kind of transformation that you've seen through that particular initiative.
Well, we obviously want to work with the parents, because it's the parents we're trying to help, so they can keep the child in their own home. Because once they go out of the homes, I mean, there are children all over the place. The children from Sunderland end up in London getting looked after in the care system. And it can't possibly be in the child's best interest to be doing that. So what we're trying to do is keep the child in their own town, put a care package around them, look after them, strengthen the parent. A lot of the parents that we're talking about have been in the care system themselves, so they haven't seen a good role model of a mother or a father, and so it's giving them the support they need to be able to keep the children at home, look after them, and give them a good future and good education and a good life ahead.
It's almost like you've got a quiver, Peter, with lots of different arrows in the quiver, and that was just one of them. The schools is another one. What other arrows are in your quiver? What other areas have you been trying to respond to?
There's lots of things we get involved with. It's quite amazing that God sends these things to me, because I didn't do very well at school, but we seem to have an atom of common sense and a can-do attitude. So we look for solutions to problems, and then how can we make all that work? So there's all sorts of things come about.
I know.
That we.
Well, tell us about. I know you're a supporter of Mercy Ships. Tell us about that. What do they do?
Well, that's a fantastic work. They brought a ship to the Tyne to get modified. It was a ferry that ran cars backwards and forwards between the fjords in Norway, and it came to the northeast to get refurbished and made into a hospital ship. It was a bit unfortunate. The shipyard went bankrupt and it was all a bit of a mess. But we got involved with that, and it's been fabulous to see that work develop over the years. And the ships they've got now, I mean, it's phenomenal. So it's really wonderful to see the work that they're doing, the children that are getting fixed and healed, and the communities that they're helping.
So Peter, tell us, where do the ships go?
Around the coast of Africa, and they have 3 or 4 ships now, but they are absolutely wonderful. It's developed. There were old ships, and now the new ships, 2 new ships built in China, have recently been launched, and the work is great. But I mean, we're not the only folks. There's lots of supporters. We thought we were big supporters of this work, and we went to see the ship, and we walked down there, and well, this charity has given 25 million to build this one, and this one's given 40 million. And I'm thinking, oh dear,
Yes.
we're being treated well here, as if we'd given the king's ransom. But we're very small players, but very enthusiastic players in that area.
Yeah, and what's great is, I mean, they're basically hospitals that go to very needy countries and
Yes.
help people who are desperate for medical
Yeah.
care. And you can go onto the ship and either get operated on or treated.
Yeah. And they're all volunteers on the ship. There's no paid staff. So everybody that's there is a volunteer. And I mean, there's hundreds of folks on some of the ships, but it's just an amazing work. And we're privileged to, be a very small part in that.
The amazing thing about you, Peter, whether it's business, whether it's the work and the ministry that you're engaging now, you're very good at facilitating and enabling others to work with you. And I remember a quotation from the evangelist D.L. Moody, who said, "I'd rather put 10 men to work than do the work of 10 men." And I think you've been very good at knowing what you can do, but knowing what you can't do if you don't have other people working with you.
But that's been the very fortunate thing, that God has sent at the right time people to help me. We got involved with Safe Families, and I thought, how am I going to run this? I saw it working in the States, and I thought, I need somebody to run it. I had the idea, but I wasn't the guy that was actually going to make it work. And I got a call from Keith Danby, and he said, "I need to come and see you. I'm on my way home from the States, and I need to call and see you." So he came and he said, "I'm thinking about stopping the job I'm doing." And I said, "Oh, well, I think I've got a job that you could do that I'm trying to work on." And so I told him about it. And the day before, we'd had an evangelist came and preached at our church. And I told him what I was thinking of doing. And he prayed earnestly that someone would walk through the door in the next 24 hours that would be the chief executive for this new work. And of course, Keith Danby walked through the door the next day. And I said, "Well, Keith, unless somebody else is going to come today,
Yes.
you're the man for this job." And it ended up, he did do the job.
He did do the job. I know.
And he did a wonderful job.
And that evangelist is my good friend and associate, Tim Sayett.
That's it. That's the man.
But it's amazing how God uses that. If God wants to open a door, He'll open a door.
Yeah, he will. I mean, that's been the amazing thing, and it's not my cleverness or anything else like that. It's just being available. That when that sort of thing happens, you think, "Oh well, God's got a blessing for this, and this is what I'm meant to be doing." So it's being available, really.
It's being available. So, Peter, what are your hopes for the years ahead with what God has entrusted? God has entrusted, time, talents, and some treasure. What's your hope in terms of being a good steward of that?
Well, that God gives me the direction of what we should be working on. I mean, there are lots of issues out there, and foster care and all those sorts of things are a big, big problem. And the church is the answer. If we can engage the church with a lot of these issues, we can find the solution. And the Christian body is an amazing set of people that they will put their hands to things and commit themselves to doing. And it's just wonderful to see the effect that the Christians can have when they put their minds to helping in all different sorts of areas. So, we just try to facilitate things and make things happen and bring things together.
You're very you're very understated, Peter, because I know you, your family, and many others that work with you are doing a lot. And I love the fact that, it's the Lord. You're just trying to be a good steward and a good guardian. You've been a business entrepreneur for decades, Peter. What advice would you give people listening to our conversation now who are in business? What advice would you give them?
I think it's finding out what really excites you or makes you angry, and can you do something about it? There's lots of issues, but you need a bit of passion in you to take on the challenge of trying to make something work. And there are lots of things to do, and I think folks need to start small and grow in confidence and grow in being able to see what God is asking you to do, because the, there's an enormous amount of good can be done by the Christian church, but we need to apply ourselves to what suits our strengths. Can we work in our strengths all the time and avoid working in our weaknesses? And surround ourselves with good people. I've surrounded myself with good people all my life, because when you work with good people, it makes you look good. And I'm
Yes.
not interested in looking good, but I'm interested in not making a fool of myself. And by surrounding yourself with people that share the passion but have the ability, it's been great. And some of the stuff we've done has been quite remarkable. But it's only the people that we worked with that have made it all happen.
I like what you said there, Peter. What does God want us to do? And ultimately, that's the thing, isn't it? And work with our strengths, not with our weaknesses. Well, you certainly have, Peter, and it's wonderful what you and your family and others have done and what you hope to do. Keep on keeping on, Peter. Thank you so much for joining us on Facing the Canon.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That is the question. What does God want us to do? But I really liked what Sir Peter said about, work with our strengths, not with our weaknesses. I hope that's inspired you. Thank you for joining us on Facing the Canon. Please join us again.